We're here with Nimrod Vromen, who is a lawyer, entrepreneur, an author, and he's joined the conference to tell us a bit about an AI company called ARC. But to start with, Nimrod, first of all, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Please tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do? Who do you work with, for? So we'll know your background a bit.
Okay, so up until October 7th, I was 15 years a lawyer at one of Israel's largest law firms, Arnon Tadmor Levy. It's a law firm with a very significant presence in the Israeli high-tech scene. And my sole practice there was the representation of startup companies from inception through to wherever they get to. I've worked with over 500 companies and over 1,000 founders from the idea phase to the very last phase in their life cycle, whatever it is. And 2 years ago, I incorporated, together with the firm, a company, and together with the co-founder Moshe Levin and a great team, a company called Consiglieri, which brings a broader range of business consulting services to companies. Consiglieri is now morphing into ARC, which is, I guess, what I'll tell you about a bit later.
So I understand ARC is a startup. It's in the field of AI, and it relates to the work that you're doing. So tell us a bit, first of all, a bit more about Consiglieri and how is that morphing into ARC?
Right. So basically what we've identified as corporate lawyers, but also other consultants to startups identify this as they have longer careers, is that startup companies have strategic events in their life cycle, which are singular in the life cycle of a company. They happen once in the life cycle of a company. But if you look at a startup ecosystem, they occur thousands of times in almost the same way. So the first 6 months from idea to first fundraising, they look the same for most companies. The first fundraising looks the same vis-a-vis angels or micro funds. The round A looks similar, first VC metrics. First time a company buys another company. When a company gets sold or does a growth round with big secondaries for a lot of employees, these transactions are huge for the companies themselves, but the founders are essentially ill-equipped to manage them. They're very good at product development, at building a culture, at differentiating vis-a-vis the market, but they can't be expected to know how to get the best results in these transactions. Mm-hmm. So we built a consulting firm that focuses on these transactions and basically develops methods of operation and template document deliverables. And I'm not speaking about legal deliverables necessarily. It could be emails to shareholders, emails to potential investors, one-pagers, decks, budgets, the whole document set and the know-how around it. We've worked on codifying it and serving it to clients in a novel manner through Consiglieri, and we've already served more than 100 companies over the last 3 years and have achieved almost $4 million in revenues during that period, alongside the legal practice that remained as big as it was before.
And that is what ARC is about, basically.
So Consiglieri is about finding a product market fit around the idea of whether or not a company will engage one individual, the Consiglieri, the trusted confidant, to run this strategic deal, to help them navigate through this juncture, which takes about 4 to 9 months. Each of these junctures take 4 to 9 months. ARC is an evolution of that, a technological evolution of that. All of us identified the rise of generative AI, specifically large language models, and how it can contribute to this field. And what we want to do is through ARC, we want to give the clients of Consiglieri the following experience. They would sit with a very experienced consultant, an advisor, a trusted advisor. They would discuss their company in the terms of the transaction or the juncture that they're at, but almost immediately on the spot, every single document that would normally stretch out that process over the course of weeks or months and be billed by the hour by many different consultants, which the founders were historically expected to orchestrate, all of this would be condensed into that meeting. We would have an invisible entity in the meeting called ARC, providing an arc of services and deliverables to the parties at play, thereby potentially disrupting and revolutionizing the world of professional services as a whole. You could replicate this model for every transaction in every business sphere that occurs once in the life cycle of the entity, but repeats itself thousands of times the same way across the industry. You can think about the real estate sector that way, the banking sector, the hotel sector, etc. So the startup ecosystem is one first market that we're approaching with this approach and vision.
So in practical terms, what it means, you're sitting at a meeting, and at the end of that meeting, what happens?
You'd be telling me about your company if you're a founder, what you're facing. So let's say you're post-seed and you're pre-round A. I'd be discussing with you and asking you questions that I'd normally ask. And at the end of the meeting, you would receive back 3 variations of your one-pager for VCs, for strategic VCs, for larger groups of angels. You would have emails drafted to all of our investors in our network based on our understanding of your positioning, personalized emails. You would have your one-pager expanded to a deck with all the academic analyses that AI can help generate today. And we would openly discuss the business terms that you want your investment at, and you would have the entire legal suite of documents ready based on the terms that we've discussed. Now we just have to meet investors and prompt the machine to change the documents live as we negotiate. Afterwards, you'd have your PR statement also drafted and your post-deal stakeholder emails also drafted. And hopefully a transaction that you would otherwise be ill-equipped to optimize and would take a lot of time will be condensed and will enable you to get back to what's really important in a startup company, which is the product development, team building, differentiation, reach to revenues, the things that are unique per company and don't necessarily repeat themselves so generically across an industry.
Very interesting. Well, we have time for one more question. So I wanted to ask you, we're here at a conference which is aimed at encouraging people to invest in Israel at these difficult times. So if you were sitting in front of an investor, and regretfully I'm not one, but what would you say to them? How would you convince them that now is the time, with everything going on, to invest in Israel?
So I've joined my law firm in March 2008. And I professionally lived through the global financial crisis of 2008. I've seen Israel kick itself out of a financial crisis. We come back stronger. The characteristics of the crisis we're going through now are characteristics that, to the extent we won't be exterminated, and we won't, we will leverage them and we will most likely prosper right afterwards. So in terms of investing, now's the time to invest. You get the best valuations. Moreover, artificial intelligence in and of itself is a separate thing that's happening parallel to this conflict, is enabling companies to also get to market faster with new ideas. I myself, throughout this entire period of launching ARC, had the privilege of writing a book about the future of AI and humanity. So people can do much more with their time now during this period.
So it's a good time to invest in Israel. It's a good time to invest in AI. So thank you very much for being with us today and at the conference, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Mike.